Hello everyone. 5 months ago I explored this cemetery here and I discovered that there was groundhog damage here and some of the graves were damaged as a result of that. For the first time since I made that video, I want to walk back through the cemetery and document the graves and see if it has changed at all, if it's gotten worse or better, or what the case is here. So right here is the grave of Jacob Sullivan, who was in the War of 1812. Right now, looking at this grave, it honestly looks exactly the same as it did 5 months ago. Doesn't look like it has any more damage around it than it already had. It looks exactly the same. And last time I was here, there were bones around here. They were groundhog bones, not human remains, but there's still some groundhog remains right there. So this grave looks exactly the same. No major difference. And right in this area, there are a lot of people associated with the War of 1812. Another grave right there. And right behind that grave, here's another one that had some damage. As you can see, it cracked and fell off. I think this looks about the same too as the last time I was here. It might have a little more erosion around it, the base, but it looks generally the same. I don't notice anything unusual about it. I don't see any sort of groundhog remains or anything around this grave. Just so you can get an idea of how old this cemetery really is, I mean, look at this grave. This person was born in 1725, way before the Revolutionary War, lived through the Revolutionary War and died in the year 1800. But this grave, look at it. You know, this is a very old cemetery with some very old graves, but there are still burials here. So there's still active burials to this day. Right behind this grave right here, there's some more evidence of groundhog digging. You can see the hole that goes straight down into the ground, all the rocks and soil that have been brought to the surface, and the pieces of tree roots. Right here, there's actually a tree that has split in half and fallen down. As you see, it's covering some graves right here. I don't see any graves right here that might have damaged. Usually when trees fall down in cemeteries, there's usually graves that get damaged, but it doesn't appear there's anything underneath of it. But right next to the tree, there was another hole here from the groundhogs. I do remember there being a hole over here. I think this is the one I documented last time I was here, in the same spot. Right here, there's another hole. I don't remember this one being here, but as you can see, the artificial sunflowers have been literally torn apart by the groundhogs. And again, more rocks brought to the surface, soil, and essentially covering up this grave here. And this person passed away in the year 1998. There's even a piece of a scarecrow right there, like the scarecrow you would put up in the fall. So it looks like this grave might have been, nicely, either this grave was nicely decorated, or this has blown over from somewhere else. But it's definitely in this pile right here that the groundhog has dug up. Around this area, there are a lot of graves that have fallen over, that have damage to them. And I see a grave straight ahead that has some dirt around it, so I'm gonna go over towards that grave. And it appears to be more groundhog digging straight ahead right there. And these are some old headstones right here. Can't even read them. One thing I will tell you guys is the dates always appear on camera better than they do with your own eyes, but definitely from the 1800s here. And see, there's just more digging. This grave has fallen over, and it's just straight down. This soil has a lot less rocks in it. Still has some, but a lot less than the other grave did. And with a lot of these older graves, you know, this was a time before bodies were embalmed, and a lot of times people would just be buried in pine coffins. And you know, over 150 years later, or 140, whenever, these are definitely from the 1800s. I can't read the exact year on it, but you know, the coffins start to rot away and the bones become exposed. So anything that's down there, the groundhogs might bring to the surface. All right, right here, here are some more graves that have some dirt around it that was brought to the surface. But look down here. This is like a piece of a grave. I'm gonna go around the other side. It's like a point or a top piece of a headstone, but there's nothing connected to it down there. And that's been there for a while. It looks like it's been underground for quite a while, honestly. It doesn't look like it's just... probably the groundhogs exposed that piece. It's probably been there for quite a while. It looks like it. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. Maybe there was another grave right here at one time and that fell off and got buried down there. I'm not sure. What I was just looking at looked something like that piece up here on top of this grave. It looks like, you know, at one point it fell off. Something like this too. It looks like it fell off, and there's no headstone near there that would have had that on top of it. So it makes me wonder what happened to the original gravestone that came from. And you know, there's probably a lot of graves here, especially with how many have fallen over, that are unknown to the public when you walk by. Open spaces where there's someone buried, but there's no headstone anymore. But yeah, that piece looked just like this. And it looks like the groundhogs actually exposed it. Right here in this area, more graves that are just essentially destroyed, have fallen over, and just been sitting here. I mean, look at this grave. It's sinking into the ground. It's broken into many different pieces. You'll never know who that was anymore. That grave is lost. And essentially, a grave like this will eventually sink into the ground just like that too. I think what happens is a lot of times when there's windstorms, when there's weather like that around here, a lot of these graves are so old they're already leaning over that the wind just knocks them into the ground. Alright, so that's about the extent of the groundhog damage here. It hasn't changed too much in the last 5 months, but I don't think groundhogs are really active in the winter months, so I'll have to come back here in June or July and take a look around and see if there are any more holes dug and any more damage to this cemetery. A lot of the graves, as you can see, are really leaning over, and eventually one windstorm will knock them over, you know. There's already so many gravestones laying on the ground around here, but every time a heavy storm comes through, a lot more probably fall down too. So I'm going to keep documenting the cemetery every so often, and hopefully things get better around here. Hopefully the church who operates the cemetery is able to do some work and really start putting some time in trying to preserve these headstones and hopefully take care of the groundhog problem. because it is sad. It really is sad to have to look at a grave of a veteran of the War of 1812, you know, and see the damage there. That's just, it's disrespectful in every way. Obviously, I don't have the authority to come in here and fill in these holes and fix this place, but hopefully the church is able to do so. So thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, this is Fixed Image. Same peace.